Good evening and welcome to another edition of Filmnut. I am your host, Jeff Schubert. Glad you can join us. Well, they say that behind every great man is a great woman. And in the original Star Wars films, I thought the woman behind Han Solo was Princess Leia. Well, thanks to the fan film by writer-director Trey Stokes, I now know that it turns out it was really a valley girl named Stacy. In his award-winning fan series, Pink Five, awesome, great material. I loved watching that this morning. Trey Stokes was also a visual effects supervisor, digital artist, puppeteer, and an animator. He has worked on such projects as Batman Returns, Team America, World Police, and The Polar Express. His latest project is a sci-fi thriller web series called Ark. In it, Stokes directs and edits and does the visual effects. Ark is starring the very talented and Filmnut fave Renee O'Connor. And when and where you can see it, hopefully we'll find out tonight. I don't know for sure, but let's check in with him and meet him. He is Trey the Amazing Stokes. Trey, thanks for coming on.
I don't know where that somewhere along the way I got labeled Trey the Amazing Stokes, and I'm not comfortable with it yet, but it'll catch on. I'm
well,
sure
of course you know where I heard it.
It's like the Amazing Randy.
One thing I didn't mention in the intro is you have a podcast, right?
Oh, okay. I thought it didn't seem like it was a coincidence.
Right, no, it wasn't a coincidence.
We didn't independently come up with Trey the Amazing Stokes. No, that is from the podcast, the weekly podcast that I do.
What is that called?
That is called Down in Front.
And what you do commentary on current films?
Myself and my colleagues, we do commentaries on whatever film, not necessarily current, but we do unauthorized commentaries on film. Sometimes we're making jokes, but sometimes we're actually dissecting the film and talking about it. We're all in the film industry, and so we're not just throwing popcorn at the screen.
I went by the site and I noticed you were doing commentary on one of my favorite all-time movies, The Princess Bride.
We just did The Princess Bride,
yes.
and that was a love fest. We call that our love fest episode.
Well, Dorkman, I got a problem with you because you hate the movie.
Dorkman did not.
In the closet, he hates the movie.
He doesn't hate it. He just didn't love it like he's supposed to.
I think he hates it. You guys all loved it, and he just wasn't going to.
So on the scale, that makes him a hater.
So Pink Five, hugely successful web series. Now we're moving on to another one for you, Ark.
Yes.
How did it come about, and what's it about?
We're talking about Ark?
Yes.
Ark originally was an outgrowth of Pink Five because Pink Five was notorious. I don't know if famous or notorious is the right word on the internet, and that got me some attention from Gabe Sachs and Jeff Judah, who are television producers of most recently Beverly Hills 90210.
Your favorite show growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Totally my favorite show. Actually, they also were involved in, I believe, Freaks and Geeks, and shows that were my favorite shows.
That's right.
And they wanted to try internet projects, and they wanted to try genre projects, and so they just brought me in, and we started a dialogue, and we tried various things. And of the many things we tried and did some tests and demos, Ark was the one that everyone kept coming back to, going, that one looks interesting.
And Ark is about?
Ark is a. You've always done such a great concise, better than I can, because I'm terrible at the one-liners. Ark is a science fiction project. It's about characters who wake up on board what is apparently a spaceship and literally just have no idea what they're doing on board.
Now, not too long ago, a movie called Pandorum came out.
It does sound a little familiar, doesn't it? And that's unfortunate.
But I know from having Renee O'Connor on this show that you guys were doing that way before you could have possibly had any knowledge.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm happy to say, and I want to make sure that this is very clear, Pandorum shot after Ark. We shot 3 months before they shot. It's not so we're not a Pandorum ripoff. I think they might be an Ark ripoff.
There you go. Well, now the concept of being lost in space wouldn't be new to Pandorum.
Neither one of us can say that we don't
came up with that.
Neither Pandorum nor I can.
I was reading on a message where you were talking about that, and you were talking about older shows like Star Lost and so forth, and how there are certain cliched notes in this specific genre that are often hit, and that you hit them in Ark with the intention of turning them on their head, so the audience kind of feels like they know what to expect, and then you go in a different direction with it. I thought that was very creative on your part.
That's my hope. Well, I'm a science fiction geek from way back, so I have this encyclopedic, normally useless knowledge of all things science fiction and what's been done and what was good and what was bad. So when the Ark concept, the original concept of Ark is not mine. It was created by a writer named Robbie Thompson. So they gave it to me and said, would you like to make this? But it wasn't like it was my idea. My first concern was, well, anytime you're doing a space arc, especially when you're calling it Ark, pretty much sets it as a space arc show, people who know are immediately going to start thinking of Star Lost and all these other examples of shows that have been set in that kind of a setting.
So what's an example, though, of a note then, a cliched note that you turned on its head?
A pet peeve of mine is that the plots of those kinds of shows or movies, there are novels also. Heinlein wrote a novel that was in that kind of, at least one novel. The plot always seems to be Earth is dying, and the last remnants of mankind are placed aboard this spacecraft and launched toward a distant star. And wouldn't you know it, on the way we get hit by an asteroid. And my favorite part, the ship's computer is damaged. I always love that trope. And we're off course, and who knows where we're headed, and what are we going to do now? Every single part of that is tired to me, and and we don't address one way or the other what that is on the show. But I can just assure you that Ark is none of those things. Right. feel free to speculate, but it's not any of those things is what's going on.
Well, I was going to say look forward to it, but I actually did see all of them.
Yeah, so
thanks to you. It's very well done. I'm going to give you more compliments during the course of the interview, but I want to get to an IM, and then we'll talk, and then we're going to show a previously unseen clip of Ark, so that's going to be very exciting.
Which is pretty much all of Ark that's never been seen.
Right, LR, that's right, there you go, except for the trailer.
Previously unseen.
Except for the trailer.
Yeah, clips,
so
little bits.
LRBCM would like to ask you.
I know this person.
Do you? Okay.
I recognize this person.
Did having a celebrity like Renee O'Connor make you change your approach to this web series as opposed to your other productions? So, quick footnote, Gabe Sachs, one of the producers, originally you guys were talking, you did not want a celebrity. He was very adamant about it being an unknown.
Our plan was, no, we don't want to muddy the waters.
So did that change it?
It did change it. It's funny how quickly it changed.
Right, right.
We don't want to. Well, we just didn't want to go out and try and deliberately find.
Right.
We got to get a name to attach to this. So instead, we decided we'll just put out a regular casting notice, and immediately, a name showed up, and we're like, well, if
it was like, sure, let's do it. That was so funny.
In fisherman terms, well, if they jump in the boat, I mean, come on, what are you going to do? It's like, well, clearly they want to be here. So, and what was important was that she wasn't just anyone. It was like. I've admitted this to her. I admitted this to her on the day. I've admitted this in public. I didn't know who Renee was. I had no idea. I had to go look her up. I'd never seen Xena Warrior Princess. If you showed me a picture of Lucy Lawless, I would have said, oh, Xena Warrior Princess. If you showed me Gabrielle, her sidekick, I would have no idea. I had to do my research. I had to do homework on who she was. But I was immediately struck wow, she could be really good in this role. Not just forget she's a celebrity. Casting-wise, this is who I'd want. So when we brought her in, and she was so great to meet with, and so into the material, and enthusiastic, and just willing to jump in and do it with us, then it became a no-brainer. So it was neither good nor bad that she was a celebrity that had so little to do with the decision process.
Yeah, and I mean, she's a great actress and she's very professional, but you hit on something very important, having a film encyclopedia's mind, if you will. It's that how many films make the mistake of putting a name in just because it's a name when they don't fit the particular role, and the chemistry's off and it kills what could have been.
That really was for me, and again, not having a huge mental picture of who this person was, and most of it from Xena, which was by then off the air for several years. I didn't really know who was going to walk in the door, and when she did, it was like, I don't care who you are who I want in this role. Right. You are it. I really hope you'll do it. So I flipped from well, it's a liability that you're a celebrity because now I'm afraid that you're going to be expecting too much from this project, to I really hope you'll do this.
Right. You try to talk her out of doing it.
You talked about this on your show last time, right? I didn't directly listen, you don't want to do the show. I didn't talk her out that way.
Right.
But I admit that I did stress all the downsides, that we had a tiny budget. This was not a television show.
Because you didn't want her maybe having false expectations on the set.
Yeah, I didn't want her to think.
Be a problem later, if you will.
Exactly, and obviously she's not an affected diva celebrity.
Right.
But I just wanted to make sure that this is not because we met on the set of 90210 with Gabe. It was the three of us, and there's 100 people walking around and huge sound stages, and Mercedes Benzes are going back and forth, and I just wanted to make sure that this is not Ark. I just want you to understand that you're not going to have a trailer on Ark. Right. You're going to have a room, and it might have a couch. That's it.
Word of advice: the next time you meet a celebrity, for a show,
yes, please.
Have a handy wipe with you so you don't get the barbecue sauce on them when you shake their hands.
Oh, the barbecue sauce story. Yeah.
He's shaking Renee O'Connor's hand, and you just come from
This is how low rent I am. I was actually the reason I wanted to have the meeting at 90210 was because I like the free lunch on the movie set. I knew it would be a tasty one. So and they had barbecue that day. So I just eaten like a big plate of barbecue, and then she walks up, and I'm like, hey, I'm Trey Stokes, and there was definitely an adhesion, and it was like, well, that's a good way to start this relationship.
You are very lucky. Renee O'Connor is the sweetheart she is.
She immediately started talking about how her parents own a restaurant, and she's all about the barbecue. So
perfect. So now the previously unseen of all scenes of Ark that we are going to see. What is it? Set it up, and also before I let you do that, you have tons of visual effects experience. You've done it for this project. So audience, what we're going to do is we are going to look at a clip from Ark that he's going to set up for us, and then when we come out, we'll talk about it. But then we're going to look at that same clip prior to the visual effects, and he'll explain how and what he did.
You'll see what my life has been like for a while. This is about midway through the episodes. We have two main characters, and they still really don't know a lot about what's going on. They've both awakened on this craft, and they literally have no frame of reference. They don't know what it is. They don't know why they're there. They don't know how anything works. So this is a scene where they go to what looks like the control room, just to see if they can make something happen. So
I'm open to suggestions. To tell you the truth, I'm running out of ideas here. We got this right here. Buttons don't do anything. No knobs, no levers. Nothing works. It's like something's not plugged in.
Well,
you know, maybe
have you
you
tried
should.
this?
Well, yes, I tried that.
Have you tried this?
Connie, you just don't start
Could you
pushing
just try
things
to
at random.
put your hand here?
Come on.
Try
No,
jiggling.
listen to me. It's not exactly like this is my first time.
Okay, wait a minute. What about? Wait.
What? What about what? Are you kidding me?
It's a touch screen.
Touchscreen.
You touch the screen.
You touched the screen. Wow. Connie, look at this.
Try it.
Very nice.
A taste, if you will.
Now, for the audience, the reason why the gentleman was so surprised about the touch screen, is that a spoiler? Can I give that
Let's keep that to ourselves.
There's a reason why he was surprised.
Yes, there's a reason. It's not a huge revelation, but let's keep that.
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely want to be careful with that. So now, okay, so that was with it. I think we have an instant message that kind of pertains to what we just saw. So I want to read that one to you if I
what
could,
the hell was
Brian.
that? What are you showing me?
Let's see. Ish wants to ask you.
Hello, Ish.
Okay, there you go.
I know all these. It's only my regulars, I guess, who are watching
There
the
you
show.
go. Many of your shorter projects, Pink Five, Sand, Woody Burns, etc., feature strong female leads. How much involvement did you have in the development of Connie's character, and how did your previous characterizations influence your creative process in directing this series? Also, throw in the Renee factor. How much input did she have in her character, and specifically in the scene we just saw?
This scene especially. That was a multi-part question. Let me see if I can remember all the parts. I don't think anything specifically that I've done before directly influenced anything I did here. I think there is a common thread that I do like. I do like to have strong female characters. I like to have characters that have more to do than wear cutoff jeans and lean across a Ferrari hood in projects. Although I'd be willing to try that.
Right.
I want to make that very clear.
If that fish jumps in your boat,
if that fish jumps in the boat, I will make that
You will
video.
make that
I'm
film?
not saying no to
Right.
that. But in terms of creating something that I find interesting and that I hope an audience will find interesting, I don't think genre stuff especially. Women often, their job is to help me and be, saved by the monster, saved by the good guy from the monster. I always like to flip that around. I always like to, what if the female is the hero? What if and there are great examples. I mean, we didn't consciously go, we're going to make her like Sigourney Weaver in Aliens.
Right.
But Sigourney Weaver in Aliens is an amazing characterization, and it gives a total lie to the false idea that, well, a woman can't carry a science fiction monster action film. It's like, of course they can. Sigourney Weaver. She was nominated for an Oscar.
It gets back to the concept of you liking to turn things on its head.
I do. I enjoy that. So I always like to approach a scene or an idea or character or a script and just go, okay, well, this is what it is. Just as a mental exercise, what if we flip all the gender roles? What if the guy becomes the girl and the girl becomes the guy, and what happens? The next part of the question was, how much input did I have in the character? I did have some. I worked with Robbie. Robbie had this original draft. I worked with Robbie I did say, how about we make some changes to this character? Connie's character originally in Robbie's first draft that I was given was came already tough. She was I believe she was a police officer, was what she was. And I said, isn't it more interesting? Can we make it more interesting by having her be someone who's so not prepared to be in this situation? So we changed her from a police officer to a school teacher. It's like she teaches 3rd grade and she's on a spaceship.
Right.
And so she give her more to overcome. Right. So little things like that. And then when Renee came on board, we definitely together crafted, little details and made it more about her and fit, tailored to her. And she brought a lot of ideas to it too.
Well, we'll get to one of those ideas, but I want to take a look now of the clip
We do
without
the
the
after?
effects.
Okay, then
And
we'll-
this is actually the before. We saw the after
Oh, that
first,
was- we've
right?
seen the after,
We'll see
we'll
the
do the
before.
before.
And go ahead and feel free to talk over what
Okay.
we're watching and explain how
So this is
how it was
this
done.
is the exact same clip you just saw, but what this is this is only what was put on camera. It was not. This is not just what was actually in front of the lens.
I'm open to suggestions.
So I'll narrate through. First of all, of course, there is no glass in the window, and secondly, there's been a lot of color correction. The original shot was very red, and we actually turned it to much more blue. The screens, there's not a single real video screen anywhere in Ark. Not a single video screen existed. Obviously, our space, there's no space out the window. It's a giant green screen. Sometimes half the set has been added digitally. This is just the footage. A lot of color correction going on. But there's that screen, that entire screen that they're playing with constantly, never existed in real life. It is entirely a digital. There's one clip coming up where you see the screen because there's no real footage involved in the shot. So this is what we're actually doing on set. And it's a testament to the actors that they're able to bring a realism to, what's really a lot of play acting. That they have to visualize so much of it. So you notice that there's not a single real screen there. There isn't. It's a wall of screens in the real show. And the hand is, most of the time that's my hand. So that shot there is entirely digital. There's nothing real in that shot, so I left it in the sequence. But anyway, so that's the raw material, that we shot with.
Now, in that scene, this is what, it's 10 episodes.
Yes.
And how long and how long are the episodes?
They have, there's no rhyme or reason to the length of the episodes. The shortest is, I haven't actually measured them down to the second. The shortest one I think is 4 minutes and some, and the two longest ones are close to 10 minutes. If you add them all up, it's about 45 minutes of material, but it's not in exactly the same bites.
And how long did it take you to shoot it?
We shot it in 3 days. The first shoot was 3 days, with a setup day first, and then 3 days on the set. And I really wanted 4 days. I mean, I really would have been so much happier with 4 days, but budgetarily, we just could not get a fourth day. It was the 3 days to 4 days was the difference between just barely under budget and wildly over budget. Right. It was like there was just no way. My production manager, Serge Delpierre, who is a genius with the numbers and can squeeze every penny out, it was literally just, there was no way. 3 days, yes, 4 days, never. So we did what we did in 3 days, and we didn't get everything that I would have liked. So what we actually ultimately did is did those 3 days. I started to do the post-production. I had a plan for how to make up ground on the stuff that I wanted to get, but we weren't able to get. Meanwhile, at the time, this actually, you'll appreciate this. Meanwhile, Renee went off and did Words Unspoken. Right then was when Renee did Ark, and then she went off with did her film Words Unspoken, as you've talked about on the show. While I was doing post on Ark, I submitted some early episodes to 60 Frames, and I said, look, I can do the rest of the show without that one more day, but it'd be so much better if we do the one more day. And partly through a combination of Gabe Sachs, because that's his job to convince people of how wonderful things are going to be, and God bless him. They greenlit a final day. So we did 3 days. We took like a 2-month break. We all came back for one last day and got one big long day of shooting.
Well, I want to ask you about post-production in a second, but I can feel the audience screaming at me through the lens.
Whoa, oh dear, what happened?
To ask you what I brought up during the introduction is there any update on when and where people can see it?
Oh, it's so hard to say. As I keep trying to stress, the one thing I want to make clear, the one thing you must understand is I have no say in the release at all of this. 60 Frames bankrolled the project. I'm a work for hire, and if that's what it is, or slave, or whatever the word is. I have no say in how they release it, when they release it, what those deals are.
Having said that,
as
Larry David would say.
Yes, exactly. Their plan is, which is unusual for the internet, but common for movies and television, is to release by territory. So Ark, right now the plan is that Ark will be released in certain territories that will be presumably exclusive on the internet to that territory. You won't be able to see it from other countries. And from what I understand, the first territory, interestingly enough, that'll roll out will be Japan. I believe it's, among other things, will be on mobile phones from a service in Japan that I don't know the name of yet.
Sometime in January or February?
As best you know. By the rumors that I get when they remember to tell me what's going on. It should be sometime after the first of the year. I just today delivered all the files to that client, and here you are. Here are the 10 episodes for them to start their process of doing it. Their target is shortly after the first of the year.
And the thought process here is have it do well in a territory and then increase the leverage in terms of negotiating a better deal in a different territory?
I'm guessing the thought process because again, it's not something I'm involved in. I think it's the same as a movie or television show. I mean, you go, well, here's a market, and we'll sort of put it in this market and customize it for this market. They do have an option to subtitle or dub Ark. We've given them both versions. So one market might be a dubbed version, and one market might be a subtitled version, or it might be customized in some other way.
Now, this is a funny question I just thought of. You have a character in the movie that doesn't speak any English,
yes.
right? And it's intentional that she doesn't speak the language that the others do.
Right.
So in her native country, will you dub it in English?
There's one country that I wonder how Ark is going to come out, how Ark will play. That's it. Yes, there's a character who she's not speaking gibberish. She's speaking an actual language, a real Earth language, right. But one that's kind of most people don't recognize, like what language is that? It's fun to watch people guess what language it is she's speaking because it's not one normally in the Western world we hear.
And the reason you made that choice is that turning something on its head? Or?
It was the point of that whole character, as written. Robbie's original version of that character was that it was a male character who said what they said in English, and I without changing a word of the dialogue or the script, I rather, subversively cast a female who said everything in some other language than English.
Now, it would be a spoiler to reveal that language, or
it's not. I think there's some of Renee's fans have already sussed it out because they always do. Right. Renee's fans, they figure anything out because they're like, just go team, man. It's like just ask a question into that, and it just comes out of the hive mind. I love those guys.
Kind of a Borg Xena cross reference.
It really is. It's fantastic, and if we could just somehow harness this, we could rule the world, which is my plan. As I said earlier, I'm hoping to get the Pink Five fans and now the Xena Renee fans and form a fighting force of extraordinary magnitude. This is my grand plan. The Mariurika Makela is, and again, a Google search, you can figure this out. She's from Finland, and so she's actually speaking Finnish. And so if that will do you any good to know that she's speaking Finnish, get your Finnish friend to tell you what she's saying. And I've already seen it's already happened. I've seen people, translations are already out there. They're so way ahead of us.
That's
They're
funny.
so far ahead of us.
Bottom would like to ask you, were you a bit hesitant about doing Pink Five with the abundance of Star Wars spoofs already on the net? Did you think it might get lost in the mix?
Well, put it in a historical context, we have to remember that I did the original Pink Five with Amy just as a goof in 2002.
Right, and that was only about 2 minutes.
It was only about 2 minutes.
You didn't know you were going to do the second and the third.
We weren't going to submit it to contests or anything. It literally was. Amy and I had already been for about a year had been just making videos and putting them online.
Amy, the lead actress.
Amy Earhart, yes, Amy Earhart, who plays the character in all the Pink Five movies. Amy Earhart and I started just making little videos and putting them on the internet. Who knew if anyone was watching them? Who knew if anyone could watch them in 2002? They were like the size of a thumbnail and 15 frames a second, and you didn't know if anyone was watching or not, but who cares?
60 frames was a baby then. They were only 15 frames a second.
There was 15 frames. It was a hot dog stand then called 15 frames. And we'd been doing this project, someone else's project called Alien Dog, which there was no aliens and no dogs. I don't know why it was called that, but it was just a boot camp for us. We just kept making videos. Then that folded. Then we were jonesing to make a video. So Pink Five was one of the first ones we made, and there was no I'm going to put this on the internet. There was no YouTube. I sent it to like the two places you could send something in those days was iFilm and Atom Film, and they were a hit, and it was a hit in both places. Only then did I discover the phrase fan film. That, oh my gosh, other losers are doing this too. I thought it was just me, crazy crank in the basement. I want to make a Star Wars movie. Then I found out there was a whole culture of it. So there's certainly much more of a glut now than then. But the only one I was aware of at the time was Troops, which of course is the classic granddaddy of the new fan film movement.
And then, of course, so the first one from 2 minutes. Then what? The second one was about 9 or 10 minutes.
Second's about 9, and then
the third one was in 2 parts.
The third one is really 45 minutes long, divided into 3 parts, of which only 2 have been released online so far.
I think we may have a trailer from it that we could show if we
We
can.
have a trailer or we have a clip. You have your choice.
Okay, we'll get to that a little bit later in the show if
Okay.
we have that. I'm not sure
They're
if we
both 90
do.
seconds, so it's either or.
Okay,
It's up to you.
fair enough.
You want the overview or the detail?
Now, did that lead to additional work for you or additional opportunities?
Pink Five?
Pink Five?
The one actual tangible direct bit of work, not counting the eventual leading to Ark, was that we got a call from one of the associate producers on Enterprise, which was still in the air at the time, Star Trek Enterprise, asking Amy to come in and audition for a role, which turned out they went with someone else for the role, and then nothing, that's common. But as a consolation, they said, you guys want to be extras in this alien, it's the birth of Starfleet, basically. It's all the alien cultures that are known at the time come together to go, we should form an alliance. Right. Or the Federation of Planets, pardon me. Pardon me, Trekkies, pardon me, not Starfleet, the Federation of Planets. I don't know what I was thinking. It's a formulation of the Federation of Planets. And so Amy, we did several days on that. Amy was a Vulcan and I was a Tellarite. And we got paid our, extra wage, whatever it was. That's really the only job that Pink Five has ever directly led to.
Well, if you are a fan of Star Wars at all and you have not seen this, it's a must, simply a must. That had me in tears laughing.
Oh, thank you.
And you can see that, what's the website for that?
Pink5.com is my site where the films themselves are on Atom still, because that's our home, that's always has been our home. So they're basically just links to Atom, but it's a little easier to go to pink5.com and get the links to Atom. And plus there's also ancillary material. I don't know if there's making of and other material there as well. Pink5.com, no numerals, spelled pink, P-I-N-K-F-I-V-E.
Amy does an incredible job, and then you're also spoofing the Emperor, Obi-Wan, Yoda.
There's
awesome.
not a character. The one major character we don't have is Boba Fett, and we actually and if you go to the special features, you'll see the deleted scene where we had Boba Fett, and I actually cut him out of the show just for length. Right. But we were so elaborate that I was like, we don't need Boba Fett. We got a full-on film-ready Boba Fett costume. We shot a whole scene with it. I'm gonna cut it. Nothing to do with Boba Fett or the guy in the costume.
Right. See Zarina from Puerto Rico. We now know where you live.
Or is that Zarina?
Hey, there you go, Zarina. Very good. Do you know her too?
I don't know, but I'm just guessing from context.
Okay.
I don't know her yet, but I'm sure we're about to become very close.
Fair enough. Hey, I'm really excited to see Ark. What was the highlight in shooting Ark, and what could have gone better? You mentioned before you couldn't do everything you wanted, so maybe we'll get into that. Thank you so much for directing the series and for being on Filmnut.
Hey, my pleasure.
I love this show. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Now, I really feel bad if I mispronounced your name.
Well, it sounds like it should be Zarina, but I'm not looking at the spelling like you, so I didn't. So again, a multi-parter. Back me through it.
I'm really excited to see Ark. What was the highlight in shooting Ark, and what could have gone better?
Well, we've sort of covered that already. I really wish we'd had. Shooting is my favorite part of the process. I like being on set. I'm a geek for being on set. Doesn't matter what set it is. Right. If anyone says to me, you want to come visit the set, I am there. I don't care. I'll stand in the corner. I would come here tomorrow and stand in this corner and watch you guys do whatever happens here tomorrow night. Just I'm on a set. I don't know, since I was a kid, being on a set seemed like the ultimate thing. Whether I'm directing or just hanging out, I love it. It's just that. So my favorite part is just being on that set and that energy and that high wire act and the, oh my gosh, we got 10 minutes to go and it's lunchtime. I just find that really exciting. So it's hard to say what the highlight of shooting is, because shooting to me is the highlight. The whole thing is the highlight. The shooting of this was so effortless and wonderful. I had my usual people, and then we had new people who also turned out to be so great.
A lot of the Pink Five crew, correct?
A lot of the Pink Five crew who've been with me all along, and then of course the actors were all new to us, but they just fit right in.
Anything maybe that could have gone better or do differently, or if not that, what was the most complicated or troubling thing to pull off?
The thing that I would have liked to have more of is more time, and budget buys you time. Really, it buys you all kinds of things, but mostly it buys you time to just, because set time is just like throwing gold bars out a window. Every minute on a set is like another gold brick going down a drain. So you want to be shooting, ideally, and if you have lots and lots of money, then you can afford to not be shooting and be planning and trying stuff or setting up something particularly complicated. And one of the things that takes the longest to do properly, in my experience, is action. Is fights, or any kind of action, or someone taking a fall. You have to plan it properly. You have to make sure it's safe. You can't cut corners on it. So if we'd had the luxury of more time, Ark, the current existing web series, would have more action scenes to it. That was just something that we had just a tiny amount of ability to do. I mean, just having a character run from one end of the hall to the other on that floor, which was not a very safe floor, is very unstable. You know, it was a little risky, and we didn't have time to do a lot of that stuff.
Let me
Which
ask
is a
you,
shame when you have actors like Renee O'Connor who can kill
Right,
people
who
with a
certainly-
hammer.
right,
You know,
right.
we did let her do a few things.
throw a pick at
certainly.
your eye or something.
Exactly. It's like, wow, we're kind of wasting half of our actress's abilities. But, you know, she did a lot of acting, and that was good, too.
Yes.
So I would have loved to have had more action. Robbie's original draft had more action. But that was one of the things I said. We just don't have the time to properly shoot this many action scenes.
Now, we had the director for the Guild on a few weeks back.
Becker?
Sean Becker.
Sean Becker.
Yes, and you know, very different
I
show.
should know these things. Hi, Sean.
Very different show, the Guild, you know, to Ark. But one thing that I noticed that's kind of similar. Tell me if I'm wrong about
Really?
this. Is
Wow. Okay, draw me that line.
I will attempt to draw it right now.
All right.
In each episode of Ark, you seem to give a little information, establish something, and then leave the audience hanging for the next
and then
episode.
bail.
I mean, that's kind of what it seems like. Every episode is long enough to accomplish those two functions. You know, answer a question, you know, set up another one, leave you wanting more.
Yeah. It's well. I've never met Sean. I don't know what his thought process is. Or we should hang out at some point, I suppose. But yeah, that's absolutely very deliberate. I mean, it's there in Robbie's script. You know, it's the classic cliffhanger. It's you know, not all web series nowadays are released 1 week at a time, but it was, and this one may not be, but the design was a weekly thing. And if you want people to come back next week, you have to give them a sense that this is going somewhere. You can't just be crazy and abstract, you know, for too long. Or they go, well, they're just making it up as they go along. This isn't going anywhere. I'm not invested in this. And the other is you want to use the cliffhanger. You want to do the old movie serial, ladies tied to the railroad tracks or whatever. You know, that's as old as movies itself. That's very deliberately in there. And I'm sure the Guild is using the same idea. You want, tune in next week. You want that, I want to know what happens. And now I have to wait a week or however long I have to wait.
Well, and that also works in the case of Ark, I think, because you create a feel with the setting, with the visual effects. Music is such an important part. Did you work with a composer? So nonstop, it's driving the story as well.
I did work with the composer, John Vandergriff, who I've only met in person once briefly. I don't even actually know what part of the country he even lives in. It's an internet thing. But he does. That's one of the few aspects of post that I'm not doing because I'm not a musician. It's the one thing I can't do, or one of the things I can't do. So we were very lucky to get John to come in, and once I have an episode completely assembled, that's when you hand it over to the composer, and then John does this score, and he's composed, as you've heard. He's got this wonderful, and this was a plan that we crafted together. That it's not really a conventional instrumentation. It's very organic, and you know, I wanted that sort of rusty metal, hinge groaning, thuds and clangs, and you know, industrial music kind of sound to it, because that sort of is the ship aspect itself. So the sound design and all the little beeps and boops and distant weird hissing noises the ship's made. The ship sort of got its own life, and the score kind of moves in and out of that, and sometimes you can't even tell which is which, and that's definitely very deliberate.
Yeah. Let's see. Now, you said she was a friend, but there's a little bit of a challenging question here coming from LRBCN.
Well, I mean, we're not that close.
Okay. Especially after this question. No, I'm kidding.
This could be over right now.
We have heard wonderful reviews of Ark. So far, so good. But what can you tell us about it? Tell us, why do you think we should watch?
Oh!
And then in parentheses, aside from Renee's awesomeness, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
So aside from that.
Well, LRBCN,
Yes.
who also we know, I believe, as Laura in the real world, I think. Laura's one of the people. Laura's doing more promotion of Ark than I am, I think, and you know, good for her. Is what we're talking about harnessing that great fan energy.
right.
It's like, yeah, by all means, get out there and work it. You know, I'm busy. I'm doing the post. You guys can do whatever. This is always such a hard question. I don't know how to answer questions like that. Why should you watch Ark? Why should anyone watch Ark? I have no idea why someone should watch. You
I can
tell
help you
me.
out. I can help you out because you know,
by all
it might
means.
be easier. If
I'm too close to it. I'm just like, because
Right.
otherwise I'll be a dismal failure and I'll kill myself. I mean, that's not really the answer you're looking for. I worked for a year on it. That's why you should watch it. What are you asking? Jeez. So
there's no way I can touch that answer. Now,
my mom will be very upset if you don't watch it.
That's the best reason possible.
Yeah.
Now, look, if you're a fan of science fiction if you're a fan of the sci-fi thriller aspect
Go
of it.
on, this is good.
Yeah. Watch the first, all you have to do is watch the first episode, you will want to watch the second. If you watch the second one, you will want to watch the third. You know, that cliffhanger aspect of it.
That's good. This is good stuff.
You know, the
Write this down.
acting, Renee, it's the combination, it's always the synthesis, right? The whole is always greater than the sum of its parts, right?
In this case, yeah.
You look at
absolutely.
the acting, you look at the visual effects, the music, the score, you all together do a great job of establishing a feel. And again, you know, making it worth your time. You're getting something every episode you watch, and then it's giving you something to think about or something to look forward to the following week to watch. That's all.
Well, now, and that's great. I'm going to write that down, and that'll be my answer from now on. Thank you. And I'll add to that I think you asked about this in a sense earlier before we went on the air. A lot of what's going on in Ark is also intended to make you discuss after what you think it meant. I mean, there's a lot of detail that sort of goes flying by. We don't connect a lot of dots all the time. We try to connect enough so that you realize we're not making just winging it. But there's a lot of, I mean, we don't. I'll tell you right now, we come to the 10th episode, we have not explained everything. We have not
definitely.
answered all the questions. We've only
It definitely
raised.
leaves you wanting more.
Yes,
you
exactly.
know?
But I mean,
Like you said, you put the whole thing together, it's like a pilot. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And what you tell me, it's like there are, I can think of, and I tried not to lock out anything to leave room for discussion. There are how many possible explanations of what is this and what is happening are there?
That's the beauty of the ending, where you leave it off. You have so much choice and flexibility in terms of what direction you want to take.
And so it's partly meant to stimulate that discussion, to be interactive, to go, well, what do you think this is all about, and what clues did you find? One person who has no connection to the project who saw it recently stunned me by picking up on the tiniest little visual detail that was in the corner of a shot and saying, hey, I saw that there was that in the corner, and I was like, gold star. Oh my gosh, that's fascinating that you actually found that and realized that might be significant. And there's just a lot of that going on. Not all of it is significant. Some of it might just be a thing, a red herring.
Your answer reminded me of another question I had for you. And you come at this as a director and an editor, writer also, but not for this particular project. But how do you determine what information to give the audience and what information to assume that they're going to know or not care about?
Well, that's always the trick, and this kind of ties into the previous question, so maybe Laura will still remain my online friend. You never know in advance, and a lot of writers and directors will tell you that often you shoot something, and then when you come to the cutting room and you start cutting, you realize that you don't need as much setup as you thought you needed. When you wrote it and when you were shooting it, it's like, well, we need a scene where we understand that this character is like this. And then you realize that your first act of your movie is slow and boring. And then you start going, well, we don't need to know that. We'll figure it out as we go. We don't need to know that. We'll figure it out as we go. That doesn't really happen in Ark. I tried to do that before the fact. When we were working with Robbie, literally did work with Robbie to try and reduce the amount of information that was being given. You know, let's keep some things off screen. Let's keep it a secret. Let's keep it mysterious. Let's be ambiguous about certain things, and keep it interesting. So, but in the process of post, I was still discovering, like, you know, I thought we kind of needed this little exchange, and we really don't. It's too much, and then adding other things. Did I answer your question?
No, absolutely, yeah. No.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. It's always good when I answer the questions that I'm asked. I find that makes for a better interview.
And if you didn't, time's up for that question.
Yeah, so we're moving on.
One
way or the other, you're out. We're moving on.
Yeah, let's sum up, right, or something
yeah,
like that.
let's sum up. The one other thing that I like to, and again, it's kind of answering both questions, is I do want to point out, and as you said, I am such a science fiction nerd. I hate science fiction that insults my intelligence or doesn't play by its own rules, or
thank you. Yes. Science fiction fan too.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Where you go, but you know,
that wasn't me being the host just now. That was me being a science fiction fan.
We just had a full nerd moment, just like nerd, but in a good way. You know, or just, you know, and they'll kill you on the internet with this. If you get to season 5 and they go, now wait, in season 2 they clearly established that this could not possibly happen. They're running out of ideas, and now I hate the show. Whether we've participated, we've seen these discussions, whether we've participated in them. I just tried really hard to make it a show that I would appreciate myself, and that's really what you have to do no matter what you're making, where either we just don't talk about the science, or what we do see of the science makes its own kind of sense, hopefully. And also at the same time, I didn't want this to to turn into a show where everyone sits around talking about the dilithium crystals all the time. So I wanted to make sure, and I work with Robbie to bring the story, the actual story the characters are dealing with, down to the very basic, what are we doing here? What is this? And not be talking about, well, the warp drives are out of commission. I didn't, season 7, maybe they know enough to talk about warp drives.
Right.
But right now it's about, what is this? What are we doing? Who are you? Why am I here? Why are you here? And what the hell is going on? Which I think are a little more human. Things that we're all struggling with. These are issues we all can recognize.
We'll worry about modifying the deflector dish.
Yes, we'll get to that later. Because I think it's not as compelling drama when people are dealing with much more primal things. In fact, I had a line that I wanted to get in there, and I didn't get a chance to get it in there. But early on we established that there's a biosphere, and biosphere is always dangerous because it immediately makes you think of Silent Running and Star Lost, and I just, but biosphere is a good thing, and it's a great set piece, and it makes sense that you'd have one. So there is a biosphere scene in the thing, and then they're exploring the ship, as you saw in the clip. I had a scene where I had a throwaway line that I wanted Renee to do, and we just never shot it, never got a chance to do it, but I wanted early. They've been exploring for a while, and I wanted to have a line where Renee goes, I can't believe we're on a spaceship and we still have to pee in the woods. Because the idea is they haven't even figured out where a bathroom is in this thing, or if there even is such a thing as a bathroom in this spaceship. That's how low on the knowledge scale they are. They don't care about the warp engines. They want to know where is their food. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're dealing with.
In my mind, she said it because I know her. I can visualize her saying it, and it's a great line.
She probably said it at some point in her life, in some context or other. I don't know.
Woozle would like to ask you, what programs and what types of computers do you use for the effects?
Fair enough. Pretty much Pink Five and Ark and everything I do is just about entirely the Adobe suite across the board. And I'm a PC user. Oh no, but which is a handicap in certain ways. But it's just what I've always had, and I just started literally more than 10 years ago now with whatever proto version of Premiere they had at the time, and learned that on a PC, and just have been continuously upgrading. I'm literally upgrading that same copy of Premiere from a decade ago. I'm still upgrading.
Now, would this be considered a basic home system, or is this like a massive?
I really don't have. I don't have a souped-up render farm or anything. It's this is all being done on my now kind of aging PC. It's about 2 years old now and starting to go, really? More rendering? How many frames are in this shot? But it's the Adobe package. If you go to if you know about Adobe, or if you don't, go to Adobe. It's their After Effects for compositing, which is where I do most of my work. Premiere for editing and audio editing. They also have Sound Booth for specific audio sweetening. They even have Encore, which is just for DVD mastering and so on. With some plugins, with some custom third-party plugins, but everything I do is straight Adobe across the board.
We've got a question from a college student, and that's incredible. I mean, if you're interested, even for just the learning technical aspects, watch both of his series, Ark and Pink Five, and see what amazing effects he's doing on a system that's basically a home system. Q320, do you have any advice for a college student who wants to shoot film and has no budget? Learn how to do everything.
Well, if you have no budget, you're going to learn how to do everything. That's how it is. I mean, I'm not doing all the post work on Ark because I'm the best guy for the job. I'm just doing it because no one else is showing up to do it. So I dream of the day when I get to go to someone who knows how to do sound to go, you do the sound, and I will have money to give you in exchange. That would be awesome. But until then, it's just me. Advice for a college student is. I'm not the first one to say this, and I'm not going to be the last, but it is the best advice I've ever heard, and that is that just get going, just get started. If you've got a camera, if you don't have a camera, you even have options if you don't have a camera. Just get started, get out there, put a thing out there, cut it with whatever you can cut it with, do your audio with whatever you can, and just do it every damn day if you possibly can. It's like the artist line is the way to start doing the good drawings is to get all your bad ones out of the way. And whatever you have, to go with that, I would secondarily say, don't try and avoid exceeding your abilities in terms of, I'm going to make this happens in the fan film world all the time. I'm going to make the greatest fan film of all time, and it's going to have Darth Vader fighting a monkey and everything. And then you realize you can't do that, and so you try and you miss. Look at what you have. Look at what you have to work with. Look at the skills you have. and create something that fits within that. Which Ark, even Pink Five and Ark qualify as that. I mean, I tailored Ark because I knew I could get that set. You know, that set existed. I knew what it cost. I knew we could use it. And Robbie wrote a great script, but then I had to say, okay, but in the set, it looks like this. So let's write a scene that goes with that. Always try and work with, take what you have, because the audience doesn't know what you had when you started. It's the Robert Rodriguez thing. You know, he wrote a scene with a school bus because he had a school bus. But you look at it and you go, wow, he got a whole school bus, and did that guy's amazing. It's like, no, he just happened to have access to a school bus.
We only had a wheelbarrow.
Exactly. that would be something. Why didn't you list that amongst our assets?
Very good. A little Princess Bride reference for
Princess
everyone
Bride
watching.
moment for everyone. Sorry, we're back now.
We're back now.
Either you just checked out or you weren't. But look for your school bus. Get us whatever your school bus is, the thing that people go, wow, I can't believe they got a, and because you had it in your basement, and make a movie about that, and people will be impressed that you got that.
Now you alluded to this before. It's consistent,
I allude
right?
to many things.
You allude to many things. In your answer just now, you were talking about just get out there, do it, make it, right? Well, in addition to Pink Five and Ark, two of your more well-known works, right? you made an army of films, and you said when you first got together with Amy, that's all you were doing, is you were making
films. We made
films.
at least 30 to 40, most of which are not worth watching, but unless you're really interested in the learning curve that we went through. They were always fun and interesting, and we loved them, and we enjoyed them, and even though we saw, well, it was kind of
your
shabby.
mom, right?
My mom, yeah, mom always loved
But
them.
you were getting your bad drawings out of the way.
It was just literally boot camp. It was just learning. And one of the things that I learned, and we also did a lot of 48-hour films, which is also a great, if you can just get into a 48-hour festival, those are so educational. And what they do more than anything else, for me anyway, is they taught me to be efficient in my shooting. Because everyone, when they're a director, I'll just shoot wonderful shots. If in a case like me, Trey the editor really is not a fan of Trey the director, because Trey the director just overcovers everything and makes editing such a chore. So Trey the director is now trying to be more kind to Trey the editor and be more specific about shots and go, I really don't think I need this angle, so I'm not even going to bother shooting it.
Any business advice for someone trying to develop and market a web series? Because you've just gone through the process of making this new series, trying to find a home, working with a company like 60 Frames and so forth?
Yeah, well, again, the most of the business development is their issue and not mine, and I'm not part of that process. There's some trends. There's no, as far as I know, there's no rules yet. There's no, like, you cannot do something this way, because you can always find the exception to that rule. There are trends, though. There are things that you can sort of recognize that probably will work or won't work or has a better chance of working. One is try and ally with a sponsor or at least a portal that already has an audience coming to it. As we talked about this before the show, one of the hardest things to do,
like a MySpace or...
Exactly, if you can. Ideally, that would be the kind of thing. But even at a smaller level, the Stream.tv, which is not, a huge, you're not Google Video, let's be honest, but you have product, and here I am on the Stream.tv. Do you think that's a coincidence? We're getting the word out. It's what's hardest to do is to make your web series and then go, and then I'll make a website called mywebseries.com and I'll put it on there, because you're basically making a television show or a movie and then building a theater and asking people to go, come to my new theater that you didn't even know existed before, as opposed to, or come to my TV network that we just invented for my television series, as opposed to a place that already has an audience going to it. You're certainly going to get farther faster if you can get yourself onto a place with an audience. And that, obviously, YouTube has a huge audience, but it also has a huge amount of product, and you can get lost in that shuffle. So you can always go to YouTube, though, and try.
A question we like to ask everyone before they leave is, do you have a favorite set speak term, like back to one, or checking the gate, or lunch?
Lunch is a good one. Oh my! My favorite one, and it's one that's kind of custom. My DP, who's Laura Beth Love. My DP who's also a female. I have a lot of female crew. I get maybe the female sensibility comes in because I'm just got so many women on my crew, and I have to make the women look good on screen. Laura Beth taught me a term that is so horrifyingly sexist and awful that I'm not going to share it, unfortunately.
That's brutal.
But yeah, I know, it's terrible. I don't know if you're a PG show but if you're, this is an R, it's an R term.
I'm like getting booze from the booth, you got to share it.
Well, I mean, it's like an R-rated, PG-13, and I just don't know if you
go
want
for
it. Really? You want
Yeah,
to go for it?
go for it.
We have a phrase, and we use it because it's so awful. And I always blame Laura Beth. Because you taught it to me, and it's the perfect phrase. It's the phrase that sums up. She's gonna kill me that I'm even telling this story. She didn't invent it. She learned it from someone else. I have to be very clear. She heard it and she told me about it. Now we just use it. Anyway, the phrase is mother-daughter. It is like what's our setup here? We're gonna do this shot. This setup is a mother-daughter, and the mother-daughter. What it means is we're gonna do a wider shot, and then we're gonna do coming closer, and we're gonna get the action again. And the reason, I'm sorry, but they made me. The reason it's called a mother-daughter is because it's the same, just tighter. You saw me try not to tell that story. They insisted.
You did try, but I appreciate you relenting. I really do. That was fun.
Like I said, it's your show. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast.
There
I
you
guess
go.
we don't care.
Oh.
But that's. I use that. I do use it. It's only with Laura Beth because she's the only one who knows what it means. But
Well, now a whole bunch of people know what it means.
and now it's going to be sweeping the nation. I'm sure it's going to just be just terrible. So. I like all set speak, of course, because I'm such a geek for being on sets. But that's the only like custom one that I know.
Once again, the website for Pink Five is?
Pink5.com, not the number, the word. Pinkfive.
And is there a website for Ark information for people to go to?
60 Frames has arktheseries.com, which I don't know if there's much on there than the trailer so far, or if there will be anything on there.
And you have a YouTube page as well? Is there
I have a YouTube page, YouTube/Trey Stokes, where you can see some of the other 48-hour films and some Pink Five making of stuff and the Ark trailer, which, if you need to see the Ark trailer again, it's there. So there's that, and I'm really, that's probably the best way. You can send me a message from the YouTube page, Trey Stokes, or there's an email link at pink5.com. If anyone wants to get in touch, love to hear from you.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and I know Michael from the Talking Xena Rock Forum wanted me to thank you on behalf of the forum for all the updates and information that you put on there.
Oh well, like I said, I love them fans, both the Pink Five and the my adopted family, the Xena Renee fans who have embraced me so nicely, and of course, I mean, I'm a fan of things myself, and I know exactly how gratifying it can be.
Oh, what's the name of your website for your podcast that we mentioned at the top of the show?
Downinfront.net. Not .com, .net. Downinfront.net.
And that's where you do the, it's an audio commentary of movies that
it's
are out
audio
there.
commentary. You listen to our commentary while you watch the DVD of whatever movie, and we tell you what the movie is.
I really appreciate you coming in. It's been a lot of fun. I want you to get your rest, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Don't have anything. That's right.
The Last
Princess Bride reference, everyone.
The last
the
one
cool
of the night.
people knew that.
The cool people knew
Already.
that. Dorkman, get with the program. It's a great movie. Trey Stokes, thanks so much for coming in. That is going to do it for this edition
Thanks so
of
much.
Filmnut. We will see you next time. Look at hard on Dorkman.
You should be hard.